Tamil Nadu has a rich tradition of stars who've been successful netas, going back to the great MGR. Joining that illustrious lineup in 2021 is arguably or unarguably one of the finest actors of our times, now the president of the Makkal Needhi Maiam, and now a contestant in the 2021 Tamil Nadu Assembly elections. Please welcome the man who embodies the concept of Dasha Avtaram, the one and only Kamal Haasan. Please give him a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome once again to India Today South Conclave 2021. Tamil Nadu has a rich tradition, as I've said a little while ago, of stars who've been incredibly successful netas. No other state has such an illustrious lineup of star politicians. Hoping to join that pantheon in 2021 is one of the finest actors of our times, now the president of the Makkal Needhi Maiam, the one and only Kamal Haasan. Thank you very much, Kamal Haasan, for joining us here.
Thank you.
When I wanted to introduce you this time, I wasn't sure whether you wanted us to start with your avatar as a star or your avatar now as a politician. Is Kamal Haasan now a full-time politician where stardom is incidental?
What is pertinent would be to start with the politician. And about full-time, I think nobody is full-time anything. They have time for themselves. And in our party, most of us have a profession. And politics is our vision and passion.
The reason I'm asking you is because the great MGR, who I referred to, gave up cinema in a way. Politics became his almost full-time occupation, profession. He was completely involved. Are you still someone who alternates between your various Dasha avatars? So you also will do Big Boss, you will also do cinema, and now at election time, you will put forward your claims as a politician.
That's exactly what Mr. MGR did. He was an MLA, and he was, after becoming an MLA, he did more than 50 films. So there is that possibility, but I think that the reason why I'm doing Big Boss and other films is to finance a party.
You're using your film career to finance your party?
Yes.
Are you saying you're short
right now?
Are you saying you're short of funds? Surely not.
No, we are short of funds because our funds are not dubious. It's very straightforward and comes from right sources, so we are short of funds, yes.
And you're in a state where money matters at election time. Am I correct? Is that one of the big learnings for you, that money matters at election time in Tamil Nadu?
It shouldn't matter is our slogan now. We have clearly stated in many of my propaganda speeches, and it's caught on, that the Tamil Nadu is not for sale. Tamil Nadu people are not for sale, and nor are they votes. And people are now sort of echoing the thoughts by on the social media and other places. They even have boards outside their house saying that their votes are not for sale.
You're saying Tamil Nadu is not for sale. In a sense, are you saying that your core message to the voter is that you will give a non-corrupt regime to Tamil Nadu? What is your core message? Because ideology, presumably, is an area where there is still confusion. What does Kamal Haasan stand for? MGR stood for clearly saying, I am a pro-poor leader of the people of my state.
That's a baton that's been passed on from Gandhiji to Kamraj to MGR and now to me. We stand for the poor. Our constitution, when they made it and took it to Gandhiji, they asked him, anything you want deleted from it or subtracted, or is it too long, or things like that. These are stories I've heard. My father was a lawyer, and Gandhiji said, it seems that any part in the Constitution that does not benefit the poor directly can be deleted. That's the attitude with which we are going. Our primary unique selling point is not selling their poverty to themselves, but to tell them that there is a possibility if they don't sell their votes for 5,000 rupees, which is pittance, their own money circulated back to them and not even to the full amount due to them. We promise them that with a just government and a not corrupt government in position, they can get 100 times more benefits out of it in a palpable form.
But are you being idealistic when you say that the votes of Tamil Nadu are not for sale? Because what we've seen in Tamil Nadu is money pouring at election time and two parties dominating the landscape of Tamil Nadu. You contested the 2019 Lok Sabha elections for the first time. You got about 4% of the vote share. Are you therefore little more than a spoiler in this election? Or are you aiming for something more? Is the Chief Minister's chair your ambition, Mr. Kamal Haasan? Or is it simply that I establish my party as a player in Tamil Nadu politics, given that you have two entrenched parties in the state?
The word, I'm not very fond of the word player because that's disturbing for me. And also when people ask me, are you here to seize power? That's also disturbing for me in a democracy. And for us, the process of getting into the Chief Minister's chair is not the end itself. It's a means to an end that we envision, that is a $1 trillion economy for Tamil Nadu.
No, my point is, how are you going to break the duopoly of two parties who've had 35 to 40% of the vote over the last several decades? How do you break the monopoly of these two major parties who presumably are your main targets or opponents in this election?
I can use exemplary grace of my previous janam, that is, there were already two doyens in the film industry when we stepped in. That hegemony was very obvious, very strong, but we made a point and...
so you broke the MGR Shivaji Ganesan legacy?
Yes, legacy. And we were able to carve out a space there while they were still there, and I think we can do it. And what you're talking about as power is definitely not virtue, because it's criminality we are talking about. So that giving money is an offense, according to me.
You're making an interesting point. You're saying that like in cinema, you broke the legacy or broke the duopoly of Shivaji Ganesan and MGR and carved out your own niche. You want to do that in politics. But is politics is it much more difficult, as you're finding in politics, to simply make that leap from stardom to a successful politician? Is that much more difficult? Because as you say, there's criminality.
No, I'll tell you, the main purpose of politics is slowly over the time, at least in Tamil Nadu, has been forgotten. It's not seizing power, it's not staying in power, but the service of people is totally forgotten. And if you're talking about my being nascent in politics, it's not fully true, because I've been doing what is primarily the right thing to do in politics in service of people. I've been doing that even as an actor. For 40 years, I've been running an organization called Kamal Haasan Welfare Association. With our limited means, we have done stuff that is quite commendable. I didn't do it alone. I only led that group, but we have done some wonderful work. And that's when we realized this kind of work can be expanded and the vision could grow further if we enter politics, electoral politics.
But as I said, which is much more difficult? Is it more difficult to be a successful actor or to be a successful politician? I want an honest answer.
It's difficult from the way people receive you. If the people don't receive you well, it's going to be difficult either way, in either of these professions. Fortunately, I see that the same gusto with which they received me as an actor, As a matter of fact, I see more of it. I've been seeing fame, criticism, applause, and lack of it through my 60-odd year career. I have never seen this amount of trust, interaction, and love showered on me in all this experience. It's a very new, thrilling ride for me.
What's the most thrilling thing for you of being a politician?
The trust. It brings tears to my eyes, the trust that they have, and the list of to-do list that they give me. They stop the car, and I thought they just want to look at me. They quickly say that I know you're in a hurry, but do this for the people.
But then what will it take for your 4% to become 40%, to be a challenger for power? Because as I said, it appears at the moment that Tamil Nadu is caught in a tug of war between the DMK and the AIDMK. Where do you fit in?
We are talking about something which is about 2.5 years back, the 4%. The party, as far as human resources is concerned, from there to the reception from the people, we've grown leaps and bounds. So it is bound to make that difference in the poll booth as well.
So you're looking to win this election. You're not contesting simply to contest an election. Am I correct?
Absolutely no. We are not here to just contest.
The reason I ask you this is because rather dramatically at this very conclave, a few hours ago, Dayanidhi Maran, the DMK leader, former union minister, said, Kamal Haasan is the B team of the BJP. He's taking instructions from the BJP central leadership, from Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, that you are in a sense sponsored by them to divide the DMK-led alliance vote, is presumably what he was suggesting.
I think one of the best screenplay writers that DMK had is no more. They don't have that talent in them anymore. If they want any stories, incredible ones, I've been a very successful screenplay writer. I could tell them more stories than they could tell me.
You're saying that this is completely a figment of Dayanidhi Maran's imagination to suggest that Kamal Haasan is a B team of the BJP in this election?
Yes, they've been deliberately doing that. I mean, they deserve a full night's sleep at least once in a while, because we are disturbing their sleep.
The reason, of course, if you are disturbing their sleep is because many believe that the DMK vote, you will cut into the DMK vote share, because you are in a sense seen to have a strong urban middle class vote. You are very popular among minority groups. You could be cutting more into the DMK vote than the AIDMK vote. Hence, they seem to believe that someone is sponsoring you to run a full campaign this time.
They can console themselves with any yarn that they spin. But that's not going to define us.
Who's your prime opponent in this election? There's a DMK-led alliance, there's an AIDMK alliance. One is with the BJP, the other is with the Congress. Who is your primary adversary, rival, whom you believe you must defeat to change the system, since you call yourself a change maker?
See, fortunately, ADMK will destroy itself with its own infighting. Our work there is far less as far as opposition or opposing is concerned. I think DMK, we could directly look as one to vacate the place.
So they're your primary opponent in this election, in a way?
It could be. Yeah, both. For me, both the Kadagams, as we call it, are equally important that they vacate the premises.
That they vacate the premises. You almost seem to be suggesting as if they seem to have a long-term tenure over a particular...
Yes. I mean, it's almost like an adjustment between two parties. So you cannot... any lateral thinker will not settle for just yes and no, as negatives and positives. This has to have a third alternative, and that's started to happen in people's mind, and practically so now that we are now a solid political party.
You know, it's interesting you say third alternative, because you've also accused the DMK leadership of copying your manifesto, of borrowing ideas from you. You know, it seems to be getting slowly more and more personal. They've then hit back at you, saying Kamal Haasan is a non-starter.
No, that's fine. But see, this is a democracy. A good idea should be copied, if not emulated. If you can't copy it directly, you emulate it. But only thing is, in the process, why don't they imitate our promises of transparency? They can't. Why can't they just be honest, which we are trying to be? Why don't they copy that? They can't. They are incapable.
You believe all Tamil Nadu politicians, existing politicians, are corrupt?
No. There are even people, good people, stuck in DMK and ADMK. You cannot generalize like that.
Are you giving them an open invite? Leave your parties, join me?
Absolutely. Good people should join our party. It's open. It's, people who believe in change should be with us.
You know, when I hear you at times, I get a sense that you were originally influenced, correct me if I'm wrong, when you started off your party a little bit by Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party. I know you went and met him, and there was a sense that you wanted to either be part of AAP or emulate the AAP model. But that was in a small city-state like Delhi. In a large state like Tamil Nadu, is it possible to challenge the establishment so easily and become an anti-establishment hero overnight almost?
No, overnight, I think time is, I mean, it's a point of view. As they say, I think Mr. Tharoor said 1 week is a very long time in politics.
Yes.
I think just now, a few minutes back. I'll come back to the question.
My sense is that what I want to understand from you is that, for example, you're contesting from Coimbatore South.
Yes.
If you win the election, great, you're a member of the assembly. What happens if you lose? I mean, do you believe you have the staying power to face victory and defeat? Or are you looking for an overnight success like Arvind Kejriwal had in Delhi?
No, okay, that's what. Arvindji, his success is a good example. It can be emulated. But we have re-customized it for Tamil Nadu. We know that it is a small union state and it was easier to handle. But that doesn't make his job any less. But we have worked and we have enough people here who are talented, who have looked and helped other chief ministers achieve their state's vision. Like Mr. Ponraj, who's our vice president, was part of developing programs for 15 governments. So these are people who are sitting with us.
You've got a lot of bureaucrats, in fact, who've joined your party, who perhaps like you want to change the system. But what's the biggest difficulty, you believe, as an outsider in politics looking to change the system? You know, MGR again was mainstreamed himself. Annadurai and others encouraged him. There was a system, a party system that he had. You went into politics without a system in place, without a machinery in place.
No,
What's been the biggest challenge?
That's where I beg to differ. Because for 40 years, we've been running an association which is quasi-political, in the sense they went into areas except electoral politics. They've been doing everything. Sometimes even the politicians copied our things, even far back as 35 years ago.
Use the fan club as an instrument to sort of build political success.
We stopped calling it a fan club. I sort of dissolved all the fan clubs and made it into a welfare association, of which I was the president. It is not like they were running it. I was running it along with them like an NGO. And we've been successful for the past 40 years. We won recognitions.
So what's the biggest difficulty? What's been your biggest difficulty in making this transition from cinema to politics?
No, except these two entrenched parties who, I use the word, it's time they vacate and give it to people with vision and earnestness. And the primary reason for politics is service to the people. And that's totally lost in this fighting for power.
You know, I must ask you this. Till a few months ago, there was talk, or certainly you seem to suggest that you would be happy for a party with you and Rajnikant in a sense, coming together.
Yes.
Rajni eventually has decided not to enter politics. Has that left you disappointed? Do you think a double act of Kamal Haasan plus Rajni would have been double the power that you have today?
Absolutely. That's the reason why I say all good people should join together. But the decision of him not getting into politics is very personal and very pertinent, and there's no debate about, or I don't have a better argument than his good health. So I think.
Has it disappointed you that he's not there with you, that you would have felt?
No, I would have been happy if he has been physically healthy and participating in it. Not necessarily rubbing shoulders with me, but there's another good man even opposing me, that would have been fine. But together, it would have been, for the one cause, it would have been fantastic.
Many people believe, though, that the reason why stars, I'm not suggesting that happened in the case of Rajnikant, are wary of joining politics is because politics is an uncertain world. It's a turbulent world. It can also in some way end up diminishing your legacy. People see you as one of the terrific actor stars of our times. If you lose out in politics, will that in some way affect your legacy as a star?
The star, but not the actor part, because that's done. That's been, they told me so. So I believe that I'm a good actor. So that part is taken care of.
So irrespective of what happens in politics, your legacy as a star, as an actor, you believe endures beyond politics?
Yes, beyond my lifetime too, because there are films that they'll remember after me. So that is a sort of a good assurance that I've lived a good life. But to complete that life cycle, I must do something for the people who have kept me so happy for the last 60 years. That's why I say whatever is left of me and my lifetime is now for the people. And that's not a rhetoric or a dialogue from a movie.
Now, again, to go back to MGR and Shivaji Ganeshan. MGR, very successful politician. Shivaji Ganeshan, great actor, not successful when he tried to make the leap into politics. So there's no one size fits all. Amitabh Bachchan, biggest actor of Hindi cinema, gave up politics after a couple of years. You know, and the track record of politicians is mixed. Many of them become members of parliament, don't even attend parliament. That's why I ask you, if you lose in this election, if you don't, let's say, cross double digits in percentage terms, will Kamal Haasan say, that's enough, I'm going back to another avatar?
No, I can't, because I have dedicated my life to the people, and that's where it'll be. And that's how I'll proceed with the rest of my life. This is
a complete win or lose, you will remain in politics.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I tell my party people what is losing. If we lose, we'll be sitting in the opposition in the assembly. If we win, we will be pursuing our dream of a better Tamil Nadu.
Is there a target that you've set your party? Man, I want to win 10 seats, I want to win 20 seats, I want to win 10% of the vote, I want to win 15% of the vote. Have you set a target for your team?
Even our detractors are saying that from 4, we have risen to 15. I want to believe more is true. And I'm telling my party people that we must reach double digits. And that's all. I've not put a number on it.
Must reach double digits both in terms of seats and in terms of vote share.
Yes.
And then if as a result of you getting a double digit vote, the Tamil Nadu assembly throws up a hung assembly.
Yes.
What will Kamal Haasan then do? Who will you back? I mean, if you had to choose, in politics you have to choose sometimes between allegedly the lesser evil. Who's the lesser evil, DMK or AIDMK?
No, both are evil. We'll have to find a third. Both are evil for Tamil Nadu. We'll have to find a third alternative. And politics offers you that third choice also. We must look into that as well. We will.
Because we've got MK Stalin coming into the India Today Conclave shortly. What if there was a hung assembly? Would you go out and reach out to the same Mr. Stalin and say, look, I'm ready to support you? Or Mr. Palanisamy, who was with us on day one, are you ready to make compromises in politics to move ahead?
See, I know the expense of an election and the toll it has on people. Nevertheless, it's a categorical no. Both are bad for Tamil Nadu and they have to be taken care of and eradicated. There is a reason why DMK came into being and there is a reason why they have to go.
You said vote should not be for sale. Various amounts are thrown up of how much an election in Tamil Nadu costs. Some say that every constituency candidate spend upwards of 20 crores, one of the highest in the country for an MLA election. Now that you're actually contesting, you're actually having to, get into the heat and dust of a campaign. Tell us, how much does an election in Tamil Nadu cost? Does it cost more or less than a blockbuster cinema?
Oh, of course, it is more than a blockbuster cinema for the other parties. But for a right earnest party like us, it costs only what we can afford. And that's very little. And sometimes some of our party contestants, candidates, have even lesser than what the election commission actually allows them. But they are relying on one force, one engine, which is the popularity engine of an actor. And it has. Last time also, there were unknown faces who garnered the amount of votes we are talking about.
So how are you raising money? Because, that's where I think Dayanidhi Maran was hinting at, that the BJP is sponsoring Kamal Haasan.
No, if we had that kind of sponsors, not necessarily that we'd be elsewhere. But I get money from my, that's why I did 4 seasons of Big Boss. And it costs a bomb to hire Kamal Haasan. So, and he pays his taxes.
So you're not worried about the income tax department or
all.
the enforcement directorate coming after you?
Not at all. So I'm an exemplary gracious for the income tax department, which is a building right across the road. And I'm one of the very few actors who happily visit the premises and give away awards to good taxpayers.
Listening to you, I get an idea of a romantic idealist, which you've portrayed in some of your films. Now confronting real life politics and hoping that the people will recognize what it takes to make that leap. It takes a great deal of courage to do what you've done to actually enter politics. But I just wonder, are you a dreamer, Kamal Haasan? Are you a dreamer?
A dream like what Mr. Abdul Kalam ji said. The good kind of dream is not the one you get when you sleep. The good kind of dream is the kind of dream that keeps you awake all the time, doesn't let you sleep. That's a kind of a dream I have.
People are clapping. It's a lovely line that you've just given.
That's not mine.
It's not yours. In politics, you can always. There are no patents on good lines.
But let me add. Once you use the word idealist, dreamer seems even more impractical than idealist. But anybody could run the world, but it takes an idealist to change it. And that's what we want to be. We want to be the change, and we are the change. We have become the change.
You don't agree that these thoughts that you're expressing primarily attract urban middle-class audiences who are anti-establishment, sick of the way politics is practiced in the country, but the poor actually, at times say that at election time, we'll take money from both sides. We saw what happened in RK Nagar in Chennai, not too long ago in an election, where it appeared that an election was actually bought in a way.
Yes.
So do you really believe, that's where I come to the impractical, that the middle class may be attracted by the idea of change, the poor have their loyalties, they have their convictions.
You're right. The poor have loyalties, but they can't show it. Now they will, because there's an alternative available. They are, in their mind, they are loyal to what is good for them. And that's what they'll do. And maybe they'll take money from both. I wish they don't. But even if they do, some of them are going to vote for us.
You're not going to say what Arvind Kejriwal once said, take money from both but vote for me.
No, that's nothing new, because the Justice Party said it long time ago, much before independence, when the elections were said, they take the money, but vote for us. But that's not the right thing to do. And ethically, I disagree. They should.
So money is one challenge. The other one is caste-based politics. Tamil Nadu has seen in the last 20 years the emergence of new, smaller caste-based parties, each of them with their very strong localized support. How do you break that? I'm just wondering again, are you being idealistic? Will people not vote for their caste leader? Will they not vote for their community leader?
It's fast changing, even in the rural areas, because they suffer the most. The brunt of casteism is suffered most in the rural areas than in the urban areas. They cannot speak against it, but they want to. And the fact that we have taken that step forward reflects in our application form, where there is no column for caste in any of our candidates.
I want you to cross your heart and say, in a state like Tamil Nadu, when you were selecting your candidates, you did not look at the caste of the candidate?
No, we didn't.
In none of the seats?
No. It might be that one or two might have happened, or the alliance that we have with certain party, they might do it. We have not done it.
That's pretty incredible if that's actually true.
That is true. That is true.
What is the criteria then that you adopted when you wanted to select a candidate?
Their tenacity of purpose should match ours, and the qualification of what they have done before and why they can pull it off. And these are the questions we asked. Their financial position was important, but that was not the primary reason why they were chosen. Most of them are qualified social workers. Some are NGOs. Some are very young. The youngest we have is, according to her, she's 25.5. And that's the youngest we have, Mrs. Padma Priya, who is environmental activist.
You've got a lot of professionals, as I said earlier, who are joining your party, especially bureaucrats. Why do you think good people don't join politics? What would you tell in this audience? There'll be, I'm sure, many people who will be, in a way, have hero worshipped you when you were on the screen. Today, what would you tell them to encourage them to join politics, if not your party, but at least get involved in public life?
I'd like to go back in time in history, about 2,000 years back. The streets of Rome, though all roads led to Rome, Rome itself was compacted by garbage. All the road before they were macadamized, they were compacted by garbage. Everybody dumped garbage out of their streets. Even Britain, as an island, the Londinium, as they call it, grew because of the garbage. And then they realized that they're not doing anything good, that sort of spreading out is not a healthy thing. And they all had to come into politics at a certain time. And that's nothing new for India. There was a time when all Indians were either politically conscious or participating in it. That was during the independence struggle. I think we'll have to gain our independence again.
You're calling for a second war of independence in Tamil Nadu. Independence from the two main Kadagams.
Yeah, and independence for the individual, yes.
You're again sounding like a dreamer, sir.
Yes, but I'm still awake. That matters.
No, you are, and that's, that is why I think your presence, in a sense, has brought an X factor into this election. Otherwise, it would be very much an old-style Tamil Nadu election. Do you believe that particularly with Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, the two sort of main figures of Tamil Nadu politics for the last 30 years, not there in this election, that has opened up spaces, a vacuum, particularly for leadership? Are you asking for people to vote for Kamal Haasan as leader, or are you asking for votes for the Makkal
Needhi
Maiam party? Are you asking for party, or are you asking for votes for yourself?
Right now, the party is personality driven according to the people. But for me, I have enough human resource and talent within the party. It will be known, and I am that broadcaster now available for them to recognize. So I would have to use the word vote for me for now, but then they are going to vote for people who are really qualified in the area of specialities that they claim.
No, because then that means that in over 200 constituencies, you're asking people of Tamil Nadu to vote for an individual. Then at the end of the day, is this about the personality of Kamal Haasan that has to attract voters, or is it the party's ideology? Is it the party's organization?
Both. The party's ideology, they believe that I'm capable of pulling off things because there is a previous history with which they connect me to. Whatever I promised them, the change that I promised them to bring about in my industry, which was hackneyed and doing the same thing all over again, over and over again. And I said I'll bring about the change, and I did in my little way. And they believe that I would be able to do that change. And they see the team and they think it's even more plausible.
The reason I'm asking you this is, again, I go back to MGR, because in a way, MGR is the emblem of a successful film star politician. Annadurai ensured that MGR did films that in a way translated his cinematic image into real life. The do-gooder, always there for the poor. You, on the other hand, in your cinema, truly did these 10 avatars. You did a variety of roles. You played villain, hero, comedian, all kinds of roles. You're playing Big Boss now. Do you feel that MGR model was perhaps a better way to convince people that I'm pro-poor, I'm a do-gooder, I will do what I do in cinema in real life? You, on the other hand, have experimented much like Shivaji Ganeshan as a star.
Yes, but then
as an actor, rather.
Cinema and its audience were very young and nascent at that time. So there was a sort of belief in that Maya, as they call it. But now, with all the social medias and other things, it's another attitude. So what is a better model than the one, but actually emulating Mr. MGR, is the Big Boss model, where I reach out to 3.5 crores every weekend.
So what MGR did on the big screen, you're trying to do through Big Boss.
Yeah, but there it is not a narrative which is created by a writer where I am playing good. They see me for what I am and what kind of decisions I make, my demeanor, my speech, and the clarity of it. That's what they like, and that's why I did 4 seasons, and that's been my platform.
I remember the last time we spoke, in fact, just after you decided to enter politics, you said that one of the things that you felt most strongly about was secularism. You believe that there can be absolutely no discrimination on grounds of religion. Is that something you feel just as strongly, having realized that politics is also about vote banks? Do you believe that politicians must break these barriers of religion and caste?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we will set the trend.
You're sounding incredibly positive. Is that the kind of person you are? That, even in your cinema, when you were experimenting, people would say, "Is Kamal Haasan gone much too far with this particular role?" Is that the kind of person you've been, that you want to break boundaries, break the stereotype? Both in cinema, first in cinema, now in politics.
Yes, the ascent of man itself as a race is because of these kind of path breaking that's done. And my heroes in my book of greatness have all been those kind of people.
Who's your hero? Who do you look up to?
Well,
Who's the hero's hero?
For me, it's Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Note that I did not use the word Mahatma. I want him to be not inimitable, but imitable. And that's possible. And that's what I truly believe.
My worry is sometimes, though, if Gandhi contested in an election in Tamil Nadu with all that money, would he lose his deposit? I've often wondered whether Gandhi would have been able to win in the era of vote bank politics, a man who had this moral courage, because politicians seem to lack moral courage.
No, but
to take those tough decisions.
That might be their reality, But for me, Gandhiji is my hero, and he's emulatable, and you'll have to re-customize some of it to suit today's times, but it's doable.
This election will occupy you till the 2nd of March, till the 2nd of May. Will you go back to cinema at some stage? You see this as, a true all-rounder who doesn't just do politics or just do cinema. In the months and years ahead, will you continue to delight us on the small and big screen?
I don't know. It depends on what the people bid me to do. If they give me a bigger responsibility, then I'll have to shun that and forget it for good. And there are tremendous actors waiting on the sideline to make their debut. And they will all have to come forward. And I, for once, would take a position which is far, far greater than that of a performing artist. That's being an audience. And
I have to ask you this. Hindi cinema actors often don't take stands on any issue. They tend to be very timid and reluctant. What is it about South Indian actors that, from the great NTR in Andhra Pradesh, entering politics, MGR, Shivaji Ganeshan, to even today's stars, even the Prakash Rajes of the world, we had Sharat Kumar, they all they have strong political views. Why is it that down south, stars have strong political views?
that's probably from what the environment may be one of the reasons, and probably our remunerations are not as big as that of Hindi star in those days.
You don't get paid what Salman Khan gets paid for Big Boss?
No, that's not true. But it's changing now. But we are getting, as a regional cinema, I'm surprised they're able to pay this much at all. But we are catching up. But still, we used to be much poorer cousins before.
But you all are braver. You all are big stars, but you still take political stands. What's your advice to Hindi cinema actors?
Bravery, if in close quarters, becomes contagious. I think the distance is now reducing because of the digital era. My brothers up north would also get the same kind of bravery, valor that's required.
Listening to you is fascinating because, as I said, there seems to be a philosopher in Kamal Haasan, not just an actor and hoping to be a mass politician, but a philosopher. Is that the way you've always been?
Well, as I told you, it comes from my father and my hero. They were both that.
You are a true all-rounder because you've not only you started off as a child actor, you've done acting, you've done dancing, you've done anything that you could have done in the world of entertainment, and now politics. There's one thing that someone suggested, why don't you get Kamal Haasan to dance? I said, look, I think he's left his dancing days behind. But there's one aspect of you, which is your singing. You sing, I'm told, very, very well. I'm going to ask you, in this election season, if you had to attract audiences, your voters, any song that you have, either in Tamil or any language that you want to sing it in?
It's another question you were asking constantly. This also answers that. Are you truly ready for politics and you leave behind everything else? I am. So instead of making me sing or dance, I can even ride a horse. But there's enough place for me to do some equestrian stunts as well. But I would request you to ask me one more question, which might help me get across my message to them instead of singing.
Oh, no, but look.
Instead of singing, because let someone
a dialogue from one of your films.
Now in times of YouTube, you can always get it back, and it's a better voice, younger voice. But the voice that should be heard now is the voice of Makkal Needhi Maiam's president, and that's very pertinent and important for Tamil Nadu. So if there is still slot and time, you should ask one more question.
I'll ask you more than one question then. It seems that you've become a really good politician. That you know now what your audience is, and you're very clear From when I saw you in 2017-18, when you were starting off, to in these 4 years, have you matured as a politician, you think? I mean, like an actor gets better with every film.
Absolutely.
Does a politician get better?
I always think practice makes for excellence. I mean, it ensures excellence, if nothing else. But yes, I have learned quite a few things and quite a few don'ts.
What's the don'ts?
Is you don't have
sing.
Don't have to succumb to existing politics, because that's a compromise one has to make. You don't have to. I'm more convinced now after having run this very difficult distance.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yes.
If somebody comes...
I hope all your questions have been that.
Okay. If some industrialist in Tamil Nadu comes with a bag full of cash to you and says, Kamal Haasan, I'm giving you this 25 crores for the campaign in cash. Don't tell the tax authorities. What will you tell him?
I'll tell them, give me 10 crores, but give it to me as check.
Really?
I'm willing to lose that. That's what I am. As a film industry man, my remuneration would have multiplied much faster if I had accepted black money. I am an actor who's been paying tax for the past 35 years. Honestly, it has kept me a little less richer than I could have been by pursuing that path.
In all these years in cinema, you've been more than 5 decades in cinema, you never took money in cash.
Earlier on, when I didn't know the difference, I was 19 when I came in. But when my ideas firmed up, I refused. And for the past 40 years, I have not touched any of that. And I've been accounting. At that time, when I was younger, the money didn't matter also. I was paid 4,000 rupees per film, 2,000 rupees for films. And sometimes they handed me out in cash. I was fortunate enough to get money at all for the roles. But the moment it reached big figures, 6-figure salaries and all that, I started paying tax.
Interesting. Because Tamil Nadu's other distinctive characteristic is politicians offer freebies. Some call it welfareism, others say it's populism. Color TV, cycles, gold, jewelry, free LPGs this time being offered by Mr. Palanisamy. Do you believe that freebie culture is something that you would encourage in politics?
No, but we will like to invest in people. As one of our manifesto points, we are thinking of a computer for every family which is connected to the government.
You will give free computers?
Yes, invest in people to make governance more transparent and the right to services become easier, because they need not stand in queues, and you sort of eliminate that petty cash transaction that happens for even a birth certificate and a death certificate. For example, I released a list. If you get a girl child, the birth certificate registration is 300 rupees. And if it's a boy, it's 500 rupees. Discrimination in gender is even there. Every stage of their life, they have to pay. If governance is believes in the right to service, which is possible, which is doable, and you can connect these people with computers, and that amount of dialogue happens between people, then there'll be less of these interlocutors who will come in and take away money.
So you believe the glass is half full, it's possible to build a less corrupt, more accountable, more transparent government in this country?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Kamal Haasan, that's a reassuring word. I hope you're right. But look, anything can happen in life. Look at what has happened today. I decided to dress up in my veshti thinking that I'm going to interview the great Kamal Haasan, and you've gone into jacket and tie.
Yeah, we seem to have...
We've traded places.
Traded places. Thank you, thank you. It shows how much you love the culture and the people.
It's my favorite part of the world. You have the best cuisine, the best people, and dare I say, the best actor politicians.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kamal Haasan, who's gone through Dasha avatars. This is his latest avatar as a politician first. Thank you so much for
you.
joining us here at the India Today Conclave. Thank you.